Hi guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I really wanted to do a quick, simple review on the new Nars blush palette. When I first saw this was like released on Sephora, I looked everywhere for reviews on YouTube and I only found about 2, but none of them were of people that had my skin tone. So I really wanted to see these products swatched on someone of my skin tone or closer to my skin tone and things like that. And I always feel like Nars comes out with some of the best blush palettes, and this one I bought just from looking at photos of the palette itself, and I was like, I'm hoping this works out for me. I'm gonna do a quick review, show you guys some swatches of the palette and all that good stuff in case you've seen this new blush palette on Sephora and you want to pick it up. If you want to see my thoughts on the new Nars blush palette, then definitely keep on watching. Alright guys, so I have the palette here. This is the new Nars Afterglow blush palette. This is what the package looks like. Let me go ahead and open this up. So this is actually my second blush palette from Nars, which I'm actually really excited about. So this is what the palette looks like. Very, very shiny. Already have my fingerprints all over it. And then on the back, you just have all of these shade names and everything. And then let's open it up. And then here we have the gorgeous blush shades in the inside of the palette. Hopefully the lighting will adjust to the palette. Okay, there we go. So this is what the inside of the palette looks like. This is the Afterglow blush palette. This retails for $59, which is typical. All of Nars's blush palettes literally retail for $59, so that's not like a big difference in this palette. I do have the other Nars palette. This is the Orgasm on the Beach blush palette that I have. So I do want to compare it. We're literally diving right into this. So I will say that I do wish the packaging was very much different. These look exactly the same. The only difference is that this one has Orgasm on the front. This one doesn't, but I do wish that it was more distinct. I wish that if it was like in a drawer like this, I can easily tell which palette I'm pulling, but I won't know unless I look at the front. Not that big of a deal, but just a small little like critique that I have regarding the palette. The difference from these two palettes, not only are the shades different, which I honestly, just from looking at it, I really prefer the shades in this new blush palette. This one has like that like baked Joulet almost kind of formula in the Orgasm blush palette. This one seems more of a powder blush formula with the highlight shades. So I'm excited to dive into this one. They don't swatch the same. They're totally different shades in here. So let's go ahead and get to swatching. So this one is the shade Breathless. Ooh, really, really gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous shade. Next shade we have in the palette is called Devotion. That one's Devotion. That one doesn't swatch the best. This is probably the one shade in the palette that I probably won't get the most use out of because of how light this shade is. But the next shade I'm super excited about. This next shade is called Savage. Really, really gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous shimmery blush shade. Ooh. That is beautiful. So that shade is called Savage. So next up is Exhibit A, which is one of my favorite blushes from Nars. It is a bright red blush. Love, love, love that blush shade. I will say Exhibit A does feel kind of rough in the pan. It just feels like it's pressed really, really hard. Next one we have is called Liberté. This one is beautiful. This is a really gorgeous everyday kind of blush. Really excited for that one. And then lastly, what shade is this? Lastly, we have the shade Flirt, which looks absolutely beautiful. So let me get this one. Ooh, Flirt looks so good. Oh my gosh. Ooh, and that swatched so good. All right, so this is the blush palette all swatched out for you guys. Really, really pretty shades. Honestly, these swatch so much better than the last blush palette from Nars. They had a palette that came out in the middle, like for Christmas time, and I saw reviews on that and I wasn't happy with the swatches, but the palette before that was this one, and this one has like that more highlighter kind of formula. It's not like a powdery kind of formula. I don't know if you guys could see. This is the Nars Orgasm on the Beach blush palette. It just has like that highlighter kind of finish formula to this. Going with the shade Flirt. Let's take that shade on my blush brush. This brush is from Alamar Cosmetics. It's technically their bronzer brush, but I love it for blush, for like kind of like stippling my brush on. So I'm just gonna take this and put this back here in the back of my cheek, higher up. Really, really gorgeous, gorgeous blush shade. That is beautiful. So the shade that I'm using is the shade Flirt, and I'm just keeping this shade higher up on the cheek. Wow, this is pretty. Like, this is a really pretty blush shade. Let's take this brush right here. This is the Bling Brushes X Page Corn brush. This is the, what number is this? F23 brush. So I'm gonna take the shade next to Flirt, which is the shade Liberté, and I'm gonna go ahead and apply this to the, oh my gosh. I was gonna apply this to the apples of my cheek, but oh my goodness. Let's blend this out. That was a ridiculous amount of blush. Was not trying to go in with that much. Wow, this brush picks up so much product. I wanted a more fluffy, flimsier brush to kind of help disperse the product. We're gonna have to fix that up because this is way too high up. I'm gonna have to go in with my Jaclyn Hill powder. Ooh, but that's pretty. This is the shade Liberté. It's a matte with a little bit of sparkle in it. You do get a little tiny bit of shimmer in this as well, but it's not too intense of a shade, but I really, really like it. You guys know I love blush, so I had to do a little review on this palette for y'all, but this looks really pretty. Like, those two shades as an everyday kind of blush, I'm totally here for it. So technically you could use the shade Savage and the shade Breathless as highlighters, but I think today I'm gonna take Breathless because it's the lightest shade in the palette. This does pick up a lot of product. So I'm just gonna go ahead and highlight with this shade. I love Nars highlighters. They have one of my favorite highlighter formulas. Now this highlighter is really, really icy, but blended into the blush, it's beautiful. One of my favorite things about Nars highlights is that it literally just melts into the skin. But this highlighter does have more, has like a pinky kind of undertone to it, so it blends into the blush so well. And kind of just tap over that to kind of like diffuse it a little bit. I feel like I brought the blush up so high and I need to fix it really quickly. Let me fix it. So just taking my Jaclyn Cosmetics powder. You guys already know the drill. And whenever I take my blush a little bit too high, I just kind of go over it with the powder and it kind of like fix it all up. Just like fix everything. And I'm gonna go back into the first blush shade just to kind of like re-intensify that blush a little bit. Really, really gorgeous. Such a beautiful everyday kind of look. All right, so the only shades I did not use are these three right here. Exhibit A, just not working out with this look, but I'm happy that I swatched it for you guys. And then this shade up here, which I believe is Savage, which is really pretty, but I feel like we have a lot going on already with the other three shades in the palette. But this blush palette is really beautiful. Definitely, you know, all skin tone friendly. A lot of people can get a lot of use out of this. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and finish up the rest of my makeup and then we'll get into my final thoughts on the new Nars blush palette. Guys, so let's go ahead and get into my final thoughts on the new Nars blush palette. I feel like this blush palette, low-key, high-key, hits different, okay? This one is definitely my favorite one. This is definitely my favorite color story from Nars. I just feel like the shade selection in here is top tier. I feel like a ton of skin tones can get so much use out of this palette. It's so good. I think I like this one more than this one. I feel like with this one, I usually have to work a little more to get the shades to show up on my skin. Not that they don't, but it has a lot to do with the formula of this one. This one kind of has like that baked Joulet highlighter glowy formula that you really have to dig your brush in or use a really dense brush to actually get some product to pick up. Not that the shade won't show up on my skin tone, but I just feel like I have to use a highlighter brush with all the shades, whereas with this one is their powder formula. This one just hits different. The shade selection is good. It's beautiful. I love this blush palette. I literally contemplated picking up this blush palette because I didn't see a review on it or see someone closer to my skin tone with it. So that's why I really wanted to make this video, just in case you are one of those people that you see this blush palette, you want this blush palette, but you want to know if it's gonna work, how the swatches look, and all that good stuff. But honestly, this one is my favorite Nars blush palette. Even though I only have 2 from Nars, the Nars blush palettes I'm not really new to. It's the fact that a lot of them just never caught my eye. But this one, whoever picked the shades for this blush palette, they knew exactly what they were doing. But I hope this video was helpful. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.